Wednesday, April 24th. We're looking at the market down slightly into the red. We started the morning higher in the green. We'll talk about where we are on 1 week, 2 week chart in a second. But let's start with 0 DTE. We're looking at about a 0.4% expected move the rest of the day. And as we've been pointing out, watch that IV number in the top right here. And that is giving you a sense of the expectations for the rest of the day beyond the expected move, sort of putting yourself in space and time of where this compares to last week, yesterday, the days before. And what that means is we're looking at 22 IV for the rest of the day in 0 DTE. That means that despite the fact that we opened higher and sold off and we are now down about 0.3% on the day, there is not a sense of panic yet. And it is something to watch into the close if this sell-off were to accelerate and we were to end up down, say, 0.75% or 1%. What would happen with those 0 DTE IV numbers? What would happen with that expected move? Would it expand above 0.5%? You know, perhaps get to some of those things that we saw last week where we were seeing 0.7% expected moves midway through the day? Or are we just kind of bouncing around this 50-50 level? We've talked about this. Once this sell-off began, we went down about 6% from an all-time high to where we bottomed the other day. And the bottom was Friday, and then we had a strong Monday. So going back to Friday's lows, that was about a 6% correction in SPX. We looked back to last August where we saw a similar sell-off from highs, and that was about 5%. We then retraced the SPX, retraced back then last August, about halfway, about 50% retracement of that recent sell-off. We got this morning, that put it, you know, that 50% retracement is about 5,100. If you take the highs as 5,260 or so and the lows at 4,950 or so, that puts us at about 5,100, maybe just above 5,100 for that level that we were looking at and we've been talking about the last couple of days. This morning, we got pretty close to that. We got up to about 5090, so we were about 10 points shy of that 5100 level. Sellers came in. Come to the 1 week chart, just looking out to the end of the week, that expected move of about 1%, and we're about 18 IV there. Got some economic data to come out the rest of this week. We've got GDP, we've got PCE. We of course have earnings, but right now we are looking at a 1% move here for the rest of the week, and 18 vol, which is higher than we've seen obviously over the last few months, but it is lower than what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. And you can see that those levels, that is about 5110 to the upside and back to about 5,000 on the downside. So we're looking at about, call it 50, 60 points in either direction. If we continued lower, if the sell-off accelerated back towards 5,000, you would expect that expected move to at least hold around 50 or get higher. And if things got ugly, you would see something closer to 70 or 75. We are not there yet. And of course, we could turn around today and we could finish on the highs and we could, this rally could extend up above 5,100. All of that's possible. Right now, options are pricing about 5,110 to the upside if that were to happen. Speaking of earnings, after the bell, we get META. And META right now, options are pricing about an 8.5% expected move. Going to the 3-month chart, let's see where that is. So that expected move to the upside, you can see it right here. That would take you to about the recent highs, which are the all-time highs, 530 to the upside and about 440, 445 to the downside. This is the 1 week iron condor coming in here. We've got the short call at the 52.75 level. Let's take that up to 530. Let's pan out on that one and take a look at it on the chart. We've got our short put at 445 to the downside, our short call at 530, which is essentially those prior highs, risking about 280 to make 220, somewhere in there. And you can see where that is on that prior, it's below that prior gap higher and into no man's land on the downside, but you get that sail up top of that chart. SPX the rest of the day. Let's expand this a little bit and be agnostic on direction. If we expand this and we sort of go to that 400 to make 100, We've got about 50, 80 to the upside, which isn't far from the highs we saw this morning. It's pretty close. And you've got about 50, 25 to the downside. So you're building at about 25 points or so, almost 30 to the upside on either side on an iron condor, risking 400 to make 100.